everyone, welcome back to the Grown Up Millennial. As you can see, I have a new co-star today. This is Teddy. You may have heard him in previous videos, but he has decided to make an actual appearance here today. Probably not his first appearance. I do think he appears very briefly in my meal prep budget video. Anywhoozits. Are you gonna be quiet? No. So this is a pretty casual video today. I didn't write really any notes or a script, just, I've been thinking about it, but nothing really set out in stone, so I realized I talk a lot about saving money, whether it's for school or food or utilities or just anything. I'm always looking for ways to save money, but I haven't really talked about what do I do with the money I saved. And I think that's a really important part of the equation, both for personal finance and just in general. So I want to talk about that a little bit today. Now, to start off, I totally understand that not everyone is in the position where they make much more than they spend every month. And this video is not to rag on you. I totally understand that that exists. This isn't to wag my finger and say, everyone should be doing what I'm doing, or you have to save no matter what, because I get it. Not everyone is in as fortunate position as I am. So for those folks, I do hope that my general money saving videos, you do find those helpful to help stretch your dollar. But for the rest of us, those of us who we are trying to save money and we're wondering what do we do with what we have left over, that's really what this conversation is going to be about today. So if you are new to the channel, a little bit of a description of my financial situation. I am married. My husband and I both work full-time. We do not have any kids, and we do own a home, and we live in a high cost of living area, which is the Los Angeles area. So for us, when it comes to savings, we have three main buckets or priorities, however you want to consider them. One is cash savings, specifically our emergency fund. Next is debt payoff, and the third is investing and retirement savings. So let's walk through each of those. So when it comes to cash savings or emergency fund, the general advice from most personal finance folks is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So people interpret this a little bit differently, and your situation is going to change. The way we interpret it is 3 to 6 months of our basic living expenses, not including saving for retirement or going out to eat a lot or travel or anything, just like the basic stuff that we need to survive. Other folks might define it a little bit more broadly. They want to have a little bit more of a cushion, really like all of their expenses to maintain this lifestyle, whatever it is. Whereas we anticipate if we were in a position where we had to use our emergency fund, we would scale back our lifestyle as needed while the storm blows over. So once you've defined what does living expenses mean for you, the next one would be, well, how much do you need? For me and my partner, since we both work full-time and we work fairly secure jobs, on that end, we wouldn't necessarily need much as, say, a person who is on one income sort of family, or if you have kids. On the flip side, we do own a home in an expensive part of the world. And if something happened to that home, if the tree next door fell on top of it or a water line broke, we would be in charge of fixing that. So in that scenario, we would want to have a little bit more in cash savings. So what we have decided for us personally is we're saving about 5 months of those bare bones living expenses. We are in the situation where if one of us lost our job, we could scale back our expenses to the point where we could pretty much live on one income without touching our emergency fund. So that's a great source of comfort for us. And that emergency fund also covers 4 of our deductibles on our home insurance. So if a tree did fall onto our roof, we would be responsible for X amount of money, and then insurance would cover the rest to fix that. We have 4 times that X in our emergency fund. So we personally like to have that much in our emergency fund just to make us feel secure in the event of an emergency, hence the name. Job loss, Teddy gets sick, one of us gets sick, something happens to the house, etc. Currently, to be honest, we're still building that back up. We did have a couple of emergencies last year that we had to pay for, and we were super happy that we had the cash on hand to cover those emergencies. Did it suck to have them happen? Of course. Did we love seeing our emergency fund go down? Absolutely not. But we were glad that we were able to cover it in cash rather than taking out a loan to cover it, and really having the freedom to make calm decisions about how we were dealing with those emergencies rather than this frantic, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So that was sort of the benefit of having an emergency fund. You sneezy boy. He's a sneezy boy. You allergic to money talk? It's only treats. Treats for Ted. Outside of our emergency fund savings, we do short-term cash savings for short-term goals. So this will be things like saving up for international travel, maybe new laptops, saving up for our next car purchase, etc. So we define those goals and then we decide how we want to save for it. Sometimes we do sort of a priority where all of our extra money will go to this one, and then once that's bought, then it'll go to the next one. Or we might do a setup where we'll put X amount per month towards each goal. It really depends on how we feel, as well as how quickly we need each thing saved up for. So the next big area is debt payoff. So as you may know, we don't carry a lot of debt generally. For example, we do use credit cards, but we do pay them off in full every month. However, we do have a mortgage on our home, and we do occasionally have to take out a loan for something. So for example, we just finished up some construction on our house, and we did have to take out a loan to cover part of that. And so we have been paying that off. So debt payoff is gonna look different for everybody. You have one side of the spectrum, which I will call sort of the Dave Ramsey side of the spectrum, where pretty much all debt is evil and you should get rid of it as soon as possible. That should be the first thing you focus on at the expense of everything else. And then sort of the other side of the spectrum, you'll have folks that use debt to leverage their investments, in the sense of they're taking out a ton of mortgages so that they can buy investment property. Maybe they're taking out personal loans or business loans so that they can fund investments that are theoretically going to bring them in more money than the loan is costing them, etc. So you have sort of this range of how personal finance gurus feel on debt and how it plays into your financial picture. I would say my partner and I are fairly close to the Dave Ramsey-esque part of it. We're not a big fan of debt. We don't like having it. However, we will use it in scenarios where we really need to. But we really focus on paying it off as soon as possible. So for the construction loan, for example, we took that out in November and we just paid it off yesterday, and this is March. So we got it knocked out in 4 or 5 months. Like, that was where all of our extra money was going. Now, we consider that kind of debt, along with credit card debt, etc., a little bit differently than our mortgage. However, we are also very interested in paying off our home early. Now, I do want to put a big disclaimer here. All the math is going to show you that paying off your home early doesn't really make a ton of financial sense if you are trying to maximize and optimize every single dollar. And we acknowledge that. And we just don't care. For us, we are not interested in being as rich as possible. We're really focused on a sense of security, safety, and control. So as a result, we're doing some sacrifice in terms of getting as much money as possible. We could probably make more money by just paying the minimum payments on our mortgage and investing the rest into the stock market or real estate, but we're just not very interested in doing that. We do choose to put extra towards our principal every single month. So while we do have a 30-year loan, we are hoping to pay it off in 15 years. Now, we chose to do a 30-year loan even though we could technically afford a 15-year loan repayment plan, because we do like having the flexibility of a lower payment. So let's say one of us lost our job. It would be much easier to continue paying the 30-year loan payment amount than the 15-year loan payment amount. So we wanted that flexibility of being able to put more on the loan, but not having to put that big payment amount in the event of an emergency or job loss. So for us, the mortgage is very much an emotional decision as well as a financial one. Fortunately, because we do live in an area that is experiencing a bit of a housing shortage, we don't anticipate that our home will lose a ton of value like what happened all over the country in 2008. So we feel comfortable putting extra money into the house, even though it's not necessarily something that we can access, etc. So finally, the third bucket of where we put our money is going to be those investments and retirement savings. So we put about, I'd say 25% of our yearly income into retirement savings, all of them being tax advantaged accounts, meaning they are special accounts where they are either put in pre-tax, so they're not taxed at this point in time, and then they're taxed later when we pull it out, or post-tax, which means that they are taxed when we put it in, but when we take the money out later, we don't pay any taxes on it. So all of our investing right now goes into tax-advantaged accounts. And we have primarily three main vehicles where we're doing our retirement savings. So the first one is a pension plan. So this is for my husband only. He does work in the public sector. So that does include a pension plan. So his work every month takes out a specified amount of money that they choose out of his paycheck and puts towards the pension plan. And then once he retires, he'll be getting a monthly income from that. So that's first part of our retirement savings. We don't have any control over that, but it is sort of a forced savings scenario. The second vehicle are 401k/403bs. So these are pre-tax accounts, and we choose to be a part of them, and they're offered by our employers. So every month, our employer will take an amount of money that we specify and put it into, I'm going to call it a 401k account for both of us, into a 401k account. We choose how to invest that money, and that happens every single month. And that is all pre-tax money, meaning that we are not taxed on that money that gets put into those accounts right now. Later, when we retire and we pull that money out, we will be taxed on it. And then finally, we both do a Roth IRA. So that's something we set up ourselves, and that is post-tax money. So we will take some money, put it into the Roth IRA every month, choose how we want to invest it, and we do that every single month. That is like I said, that is a post-tax account. So we have already been taxed on that money. It's our take-home pay, what we get back after we get our paycheck and all that. And then later, since it's already been taxed, later when we pull our money out of the Roth IRA, again in retirement, we will not be taxed on that money. So between those three vehicles, we're saving about 25% of our yearly income into retirement and investments. In terms of what we actually invest in once they're in those accounts, we choose to do index fund investing, one, because the expenses are very low to invest, two, they're very diversified and so the risk is a little bit lower, and three, studies have demonstrated that index fund investing just makes sense for the average investor. We're not interested in doing a ton of research into a bunch of companies to do individual stock investing. We just don't have the time or interest in doing that. And that index funds often beat actively managed funds, and they pretty much meet the growth of the market on average. So that's what we're looking for. We want our money to grow. We want to have enough for retirement. But again, we're just not willing to put in all the time and research and effort to try to maximize every single dollar and get as rich as possible. That's just not our goal. In terms of how much we actually put into each of these accounts, we both max out our Roth IRAs every year, so that's about $6,000 each into our Roth IRAs. And then when it comes to our 401ks, I put in about 15% of my paycheck into my 401k. And then for my husband, he puts about 10% into his, because the pension takes out another 5%. So at work, we're each doing about 15% in investing in retirement. And then afterwards, we do max out the Roth IRAs. So that's just our general saving strategy, what we're investing in, how we choose and prioritize things. Obviously these strategies aren't going to work for everybody. Your financial situation is going to look really different. I just want to talk a little bit more on this channel about what to do once you actually save the money. It's super important to be budgeting and saving money and figuring out how to reduce your expenses as well as your consumption in general. But I also think it's important that we actually be putting money away for the future if we can. I do think that is important, and to be thinking a little bit more long term than we may be used to. So I'll still be talking about how to save money here and there, but I also want to be touching on this topic as well. So please be sure to leave any questions or comments down below. I would love to hear your experiences, love to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe, like this video, share it, whatever you feel like doing. If you really want to help me out, go watch another video. That would be super cool as well. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Whether it's on paying for school, whether it's, okay. Emergencies, so they became, I know, you were happy too. And we were super happy that we had that cash on hand to cover those emergencies. Anticipate that our home will lose a lot of value. All right, this is another topic for him.